Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about Sony, and this news here is getting a lot of people talking. Apparently, Sony is deleting a ton of TV shows from the PS Store at the end of the year. If you purchase this content, you'll no longer be able to use it, and you can find this information right on the PlayStation website. I'll drop a link in the description below. It says Discovery Entitlements Affected Titles as of 31st December 2023, so not even a month from now. Due to our content licensing agreement with content providers, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Discovery content, and the content will be removed from your video library. And on their website is a list of every single show being removed, and there's quite a few of them here. This is a massive list. Now, leaving out the huge argument and prime example of one of the big problems about the all-digital future, this is the part that really gets me. You will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased content. If you purchased it, you should still have access to it. If they're removing it, they should also be refunding every single person. And not just a store credit, a legit refund, the same way they paid. Fortunately here, Rob Freund has the exact same opinion as I do, and he's a lawyer. He says he expects this Sony announcement will lead to a class action lawsuit, and Sony may have a tough time defending it. Apple recently lost a motion to dismiss a case based on the same issues with iTunes. Rob even went as far to highlight the relevant part here, the part that is pretty much the exact same from the iTunes case. Reasonable consumers might have been misled when they purchased digital content, with the mistaken impression that the content could not later be removed from their libraries, and I would agree with this. And to further drive that point home, even in Sony's own statement, they say previously purchased content, not previously rented content, or previously purchased license to temporarily view the content. I don't know about you, but I'd argue it's shenanigans like this that drive people towards piracy. Stuff like this kind of fuels that fire. But moving on from one trash fire to another, and we're talking about Ryujinx emulator on the Google Play Store. This is not the Ryujinx that you may know and love. It's not the Nintendo Switch emulator, although it does share the exact same name and a very similar logo. And it's even got Nintendo Switch controllers on it. I'm pretty sure this is meant to mislead people, and it's $5, and over 100 people have already downloaded it, but it's not the real deal. And interestingly enough, or rather unfortunately enough, this nonsense developer also has another emulator on the Google Play Store. It's called PCSX3, and they're calling it a PS3 emulator. There are no PS3 emulators that work on the Google Play Store. PS3 emulation on Android does not exist right now. You will not find a PS3 emulator on Google Play that's actually going to work. And this one unfortunately has over 5,000 downloads. It kind of sucks that nonsense like this pops up on the Google Play Store, but at the same time here it seems like it's par for the course. I wouldn't be surprised if more stuff like this popped up in the near future. But moving on and switching from Android to Apple, and next up here we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on iOS with Yuzu. And Antique here has Yuzu on iOS up and running, and actually booting and getting video from a game. For those who may not be aware, this is the same developer behind EMU3DS, which is now known as Lyman. And it's a 3DS emulator for Apple devices. And they also have a GitHub repository here for this iOS version of Yuzu. Its placeholder name is Yuzu Bone Apple Teat. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. At this point in time, there are no public releases, but you may want to pay attention to it. If you are excited about this one, it's worth pointing out here that this is a fork of Yuzu. It's not the official version of Yuzu. If you go into the Yuzu Discord and start asking about it, they won't be able to help you. This is being developed on the side by someone else entirely. But speaking about Yuzu, and next up we're talking about Yuzu, the official version of it, not a fork. And Yuzu just got a brand new update you may be interested in. So as of mainline version 1639, if you use the OpenGL renderer, well, this may improve OpenGL performance in various games. They've also fixed Fight and Rage and Bastion that would not render on correct position. And there's fixes here for several amiibos that would fail to load in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And in the paid testing early access version 4004, which again is the latest version at the time of filming, they've improved shader compilation speed and OpenGL backend. So if you are using that OpenGL renderer, there's a few things coming down the pipeline that you may like. And speaking about liking stuff, next up we're talking about MAME. We talked about MAME's update the other day, but at the same time here, if you wanted to see some of the updated gameplay in action, I'll drop a link to this video in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. It's by Bob Zed, and it's very, very interesting. And speaking about interesting, next up we're talking about Nintendo 3DS emulation with Citra, and Citra just got a very interesting update. So as of Citra Nightly 2048, there's another big update for Android. It's the Android UI Overhaul Part 3. UI stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or User Interface depending on how you want to interpret that. Anyways, here there's a brand new in-game menu. They've added the ability to open games from the file manager. There's a new shader loading user interface. It fixes an issue where the system bars would stay visible during emulation. And it fixes an issue where the foreground service notification would get stuck after a crash. Now to try this one out is simple and straightforward. Head to citra-emu.org and click on download. Once you are here, click on manual download. Then under the nightly build, you can pick it up for Android right here. Next up here, I've got some fun information provided by Pretendo. For those who may not be aware, Pretendo is a free and open source replacement for Nintendo 3DS and Wii U servers. And the other week we talked about Pretendo when they said they'd almost reached compatibility with some non-Nintendo Network games made by Ubisoft. Now the part that got me was non-Nintendo Network games using a very nearly identical game server backend as actual Nintendo games. I said, who would have thought? Pretendo reached out and provided some very much needed context. They said there's actually a simple reason for this. Nintendo did not make the software used for the Nintendo Network. The software Nintendo uses, named Nex, is actually a modified version of a piece of software called Rendezvous. Rendezvous was originally developed by a Canadian software company, Quazzle, who is also famous for creating NetZ. Furthermore, Ubisoft bought out Quazzle at some point and still uses Rendezvous in their multiplayer games. That's why things are nearly identical and almost compatible as is. Very, very interesting information. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Next up, we're quickly talking about Sega, and it appears that Sega has a pretty big game tucked up their sleeve. Curious Joy here, a Twitch streamer, received an interesting postcard. It says, "New era, new energy. Make sure to tune in to the Game Awards on December 7th. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to reveal here. Let me know your guesses in the comments below. And speaking about December 7th, next up we're talking about LEGO and Fortnite. And on December 7th, LEGO Fortnite arrives. There's a brand new announcement trailer, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Unfortunately, if you're a fan of Fortnite and a fan of LEGO, you don't really have a whole lot of details to go on here. If we scroll down to the FAQ, every single answer is December 7th. And speaking about trailers on YouTube, next up we're quickly talking about the Assassin's Creed Black Flag PS1 demake. As far as I know here, this is not an official release, or not even a fan release. It's a fan trailer, but it is worth checking out. In my opinion, Rustic Games BR did an amazing job of visualizing the game if it was released back in the PS1 era. Let me know your thoughts about this one. I think it's super cool. And speaking about fan-made stuff, last up here we're talking about a fan-made South Park game. It's called South Park and the Quest for the Holy Thong. I'll drop a link to the Reddit post in the description below. If you are interested in joining the community, there's also a Discord link there. And the game looks like it's shaping up pretty well. It appears to be an RPG. Now, they are making the game using RPG Maker 2003, and if you know a lot about RPG Maker, or if you just wanted to be a part of the community, they are looking for active members. And as far as I know here, they're also looking to make the game compatible with the 3DS and Wii, which would be absolutely incredible. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.